I'd love to introduce our panel, our guests that have joined us that will be presenting from Strategic Impact Advisors, or SIA. First, we have Shelley Spencer, who is the CEO of SIA. She has 30 years of experience working in the telecommunications sector, with the last 10 years spent working with donors like USAID to advance the use of mobile technology to address economic justice issues. And she has a very strong commitment to working to accelerate women's financial inclusion, which of course is the topic of the Hey Sister Project. And then we have Wisdom Alorwuse, who is the Africa lead with Strategic Impact Advisors. Wisdom is based in Accra and leads SIA's work in Africa. And he has over 9 years of experience in digital financial services, agricultural technology, and branchless banking, and business development and IT, a deep set of experience there. So we're lucky to have Wisdom. He started his career with Casapa Telecom and later joined Airtel, Tigo Money, and as a mobile money agent quality manager, managing agent networks in Volta, Ghana, and later in Accra. And then finally from SIA, we have Sarah Sitz, who is the Women's Economic Empowerment Expert and the project manager on the Hey Sister Project. Sarah has 15 years of experience in designing development programs in the areas of resilience, livelihoods, inclusive markets, and women's economic empowerment. She's worked with SIA since 2019 and leads the curriculum development for Hey Sister. Sarah also led PACT's Cambodia country office and has worked in many other offices in many other countries in Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. So we're thrilled to have all of them here with us. And then you will also see a couple folks from Amplio leading some of the discussion. We have Bea Covington, who is Amplio's Global Partnerships Director. And then I am Lindsay Dakin. I'm Amplio's Global Partnerships Program Manager. So we'll be jumping in the breakout sessions and the discussion in the second half and helping to facilitate that. So again, thrilled for you all to be here. Thank you so much. For the folks that maybe have just come in the room, feel free to drop your introductions into the chat, and let's get rolling with our presentation. So I'm going to hand it over to the SIA team.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. And first of all, I'd like to start all of these meetings because we can't be in person with some gratitude. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our campaign. Thank you for all of you who've showed up to listen to this in your evening, your afternoon, or your early morning on the West Coast of the United States. So we're super excited to share what we're doing with you. And I'd also like to say as an opener that what we've developed is really meant to be shared and used by others. So while we were fortunate to develop it, our hope is that others like those on the call will take it and use it in their own programming and adapt it. And if you're here, and I see Revi Sterling, a strong mentor of mine, you believe in the power of audio. So that's what we're going to talk about today, our audio-based campaign that focuses on women's digital financial literacy. I feel like we're in the right place at the right time, having been working on this for 9 years, that this continues to be one of the biggest barriers in the financial inclusion gap and the gender digital divide for women, literacy and capacity. So next slide. So what have we developed? So we were fortunate about 1.5 years ago to get a call from USAID and say, we are really interested in how do we bridge this divide with capacity building for women. And we saw it in 2 ways. One, they had worked a lot on the digital gender divide, and we had been working with USAID on financial inclusion. And we know from research that was done by MIT and Georgetown that access to mobile money can move women out of poverty. So they tested that in Kenya. They did some very control group trials, and they found that when there were more agents there, that it was an effective tool. So we ended that discussion, although people still kind of say, well, that's Kenya. We ended that discussion of, is this something we should be thinking about if we're working in development and we're interested in women's economic empowerment? So we looked at that with USAID and thinking about what are the things that we could do to help bring those two things, digital literacy and financial literacy, together. So we designed this program to really look at low and middle income countries, and knowing that GSMA and its Connected Women report for the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years, literacy has always been in the top 2 barriers. It was in the most recent report with affordability as the barrier to owning a mobile phone as a woman, and it was in the top 2 for using internet-based services. And we know from Findex, which is put out by the World Bank, that the gender gap in low and income countries has stagnated for the past 2 reporting periods for the Findex. Hopefully we'll get a new one. It's hard for them to do it with COVID, and it'll show some progress there. So our goal for this program is really to build women's capacity. We wanted to make sure that we weren't adopting a measure that we're commonly using in financial inclusion and other things. How many women have an account? How many women are using these services? Because we weren't sure that the services on the supply side actually match up yet with what women need, and women in a category that I would say has many variations. So for some women, products might work that exist today. For others, there might still be a gap. So we set it up to really empower women to be confident in evaluating products and making the right decision for them without a predetermined assumption of whether that's a yes or no to open an account and use the product. So, and then our vision is that hopefully after our project ends, which is slated with USAID to end at the end of this calendar year, other organizations like those on the phone, MetaCare, others will take it forward and find it valuable. Next slide. So how did we design it? We thought, we're not new to this. People have been doing this for years. So we didn't want to create something new if it wasn't needed. So we started, and USAID asked us to start with this, with desk research and say, okay, what's already out there? A lot of people have already done financial literacy curriculum. We know that GSMA has a mobile internet skills test. People have worked on digital literacy. So there's existing content that's out there, but what we couldn't find is something that really brought the two together effectively in a way that could be delivered without a heavy investment. So we wanted to look at that, and we also, in talking to people, there's been so much work over the past number of years on human-centered design. So we really knew we had a body of research that we could use that would help us do the segmentation of women, and we could use those archetypes in the campaign so it wasn't a generic curriculum, that people would feel like they could relate to the curriculum. And we have some encouraging data about how this campaign is actually being reported as relevant to women's lives. We also knew we wanted to keep it short. We don't want people to have to read a book. We didn't want them to have to sit through 25 hours of classroom or under the tree training. So we knew that, and we wanted to use stories because we know from the literature that when you use something like a soap opera or edutainment, that people will engage with it at a deeper level or are more interested in it and likely to do that. And then obviously the pandemic. So we started this project, we got it from USAID in 2019. We were getting ready to launch. Originally it was envisioned with the Peace Corps, and then March of last year hit. And we all know that we were stuck in place and have been stuck in place since then. So, and we know that digital tools became more important no matter where you were, because face-to-face interaction had a new risk. So whether it was governments locking down in Zambia, Ghana, Uganda, the US, the UK, wherever it might be, all of a sudden bridging that digital gap became more important. And for financial services, so you could receive support payments or you could conduct transactions in a way that you had previously done in person. So we chose to go with IVR, and obviously that also has the value of using audio, because we knew if there were barriers, whether it's texting and you need to read, or if it was an app or a chat bot that you would need some kind of smartphone, that could create an entry barrier for people using the campaign. So we developed 3 personas. So these are our sisters that we're really thrilled with. So we pulled them from archetypes that were developed with Gates funding by IDEO.org. So to IDEO.org, if you haven't read their Women in Money reports, it's really, really interesting. And they developed a couple of archetypes. We took 3 of them. So we have Annette, and Annette is young and pregnant and having her first child. And she's in a savings group, but she's unbanked. So she doesn't really know how to use mobile money and hasn't used it. So she's at an entry point, but very much a novice and unexperienced. Then we have Josephine, who's a little more experienced, and she has a bank account, but she's not really integrated in the digital system. And she works in the market and sells her vegetables. And so she's an archetype that we would call a ladder climber. And then we have Miriam, who's kind of our leader, mentor, powerhouse. And she has her own business and really is the teacher of the sisters. So you'll find when you hopefully listen to the content that we follow these 3 women through a series of storytelling vignettes in our lessons, and they're learning from each other. So we designed 10 lessons. I'm excited to tell you, and Sarah will tell you more, that it's about, we're developing a second phase that'll have an additional series of lessons, but this is what we started with again, and it launched in November. So you can see here, all of these 10 audio lessons are available, and we're going to try to play, hopefully you can hear it, number 10, which is always trending as one of our top lessons.
Good morning, Annette. So is this a loan? Yes, it is, but I don't think it's real. They're asking you to send money and didn't even mention the company's name. Oh, how can I check the company's name? It would be in the text, and also the number it comes from would identify the company. See, look at the last message you received from your regular mobile money. I see. What could the danger be? For starters, you can lose your money, and if you release your personal details, like account numbers, birth date, and so on, they might try to steal your money. There are some really smart scammers out there who try to fool people. Oh, those people are like Sakawa. But I received.
So hopefully what came through is that it really is the women having a conversation. So you get to be a part of that conversation. And as I said, this is one that particularly now with the rise of fraud and scams has particular relevance and is one of our most listened to lessons. So I'm going to turn it over to Wisdom, who's based out of our Accra office and runs our Africa team, to talk about how we're delivering the content. Wisdom?
Great. Thanks very much, Shelley, for setting the ball rolling. And thanks everybody for making time for this webinar. So in terms of the delivery channels, I mean, we decided that we want a channel that is going to be user-friendly for people in the bottom of the pyramid, specifically women, and then they'll be able to listen to the content remotely without necessarily, going to specific area to listen to the content. So we adopted the IVR model, like Shelley rightly mentioned. So people are able to call 321 in Ghana, and then also in Malawi and Uganda in order to listen to the content without necessarily, going to a service provider to listen to the content, which is quite user-friendly. And one thing that is very critical and important I want to share is that you don't need to be a smartphone user to listen to the content. Once you are a phone user, you use feature phone or a basic phone, you just dial the 321 code, and then straight ahead, you can listen to the content at the comfort of your home. So basically, that is one of the top channels that we have actually adopted for the end user women to be able to listen to the curriculum. Another interesting thing that we feel strongly that is more sustainable on the ground is to run this through a facilitator learning sessions, right? So basically with the sort of partners that we are working with, or the outreach partners that we're working with, they are able to get trainings, virtually, and then also train their local champions on the ground. So that once their local champions organize these training sessions, they are able to download the content on their phone, play to the hearing of the women on the ground, or even connect it to a Bluetooth speaker or Amplio talking book, and then be able to play the content to the hearing of women, about 20 to 50 at a go. Okay, and then they are able to organize them and make sure that they have discussing sessions where questions and answers are provided to make sure that the women understand the content in the various communities that they find themselves in. So the content are available on our websites for you to download. And then once you download that on your phone, you can play that everywhere you find yourself. And the people will be able to listen to the it and then make some meaningful decision in terms of the content. So basically, these are the, the key delivery channels that we are using for this particular campaign. Next slide, please. Great. So, this thing you see here, or this data you see here, basically is a data that we got from the platform, the VMO platform that we've been using on this campaign, right? And you could see very well that, it has to do with the 10 lessons, right? And you could see that the first 4 lessons are being heard by a lot of people, and a lot of people are listening to some of these lessons. And you can see from the chat that close to about 20,000 people have been able to listen to how to open an account, which is very critical and important for financial inclusion. And then also how financial systems are changing because of COVID, which is the second top lesson that is trending at the moment. And then the last 2, which is protecting one from scam, and then fake news, which I know very well, most of you in Africa know very well that scam is one of the key areas that people are using to bring down the use of digital financial services on the ground. So clearly, you could see very well that these are the trending topics that we do have. And I must say that, we launched this only last year in October, and we are really enjoying some good, listenership on the platform across the 3 countries. Next slide, please. Great. So, in terms of the content that, have been heard by the people to completion, very, very well, you could see very well that, once people call the 3-1 to listen to the content, others are able to drop off along the line. Others are able to wait till they listen to the content to the end. And you must see here that we have close to about 80% of the people listening to the fake news, right? The fake news episode, which tells you very well that it's very instrumental and critical for them in making decisions when it comes to digital financial services and digital literacy. And same applies to protecting oneself from scam, and then also doing P2P transactions. So clearly the lessons that you see here are giving out information to people, and you can see that almost 60% of the people have also listened to how financial systems are changing. So 60 to 80% of the people are listening to the content to the end. So basically, the content is making good waves on the ground, and people are seeing it very meaningful in making decisions in their lives. Yeah. Next slide, Shelley. Awesome. So this particular slide talks more about the facilitator listening sessions that we spoke about earlier. And like I said earlier, aside the IVR platform being available for people to listen to the content by dialing 321 on their mobile phone, we decided to enter into partnership with key outreach partners. And these partners basically are, development organizations, local NGOs, international NGOs, microfinance institutions, financial institutions, grassroots organizations in the bottom of the pyramid that one way or the other works with women, and then are also pushing hard to also impact women when it comes to digital literacy and the training is on the ground. And so we are currently using that model, which is more sustainable because these people have specific time that they meet on the ground, and they are able to train their members on whatever initiative they are running with. And I must say that, this channel is working very well. And then once they go on the ground, they are able to play the content for the people to hear. They are able to allow them to also ask questions, and responses are provided, which is making them to really understand the content. And then once they get back to their homes, they are able to call the 321 and then as a refresher course. So basically, it is an entry point that we are using to make sure that we empower the people on the ground. Yeah, so you could see very well that we have partner staffs and then local champions who are facilitating some of these trainings on the ground. In some organizations, they do have their partner staff taking charge of the trainings on the ground, whereas others do have local champions in the form of farmer-based organization, lead farmers, community champions, who are equipped with the content so that once they find themselves in their communities, they'll be able to, organize those training sessions and be able to organize discussion sessions with the people, answer any questions that will come, and also help them to make meaningful decisions when it comes to the use of mobile money and then digital financial services in the large. Great. So at this point, I think we can go on the next slide. Awesome. So let me just hand over to my colleague, Sarah, to take us through the remaining slides. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. So this is a dispatch from one of our facilitators who works for a Ugandan NGO, talking about her experiences facilitating listening and discussion groups with the women. And she talks about how the curriculum is an easily relatable story that the women find interesting and are using to put into action in their own activities on their phone. And just for a quick overview, these are our reach to date. And probably a few things jump out at you when you look at these numbers. One is that we do have a strong majority of our listeners are women, which obviously is our target, though the more people who learn about mobile money, of course, and digital financial services and literacy, the better. The second point that may jump out at you is that the majority to date are being reached through the IVR lines. The numbers that we're reaching through facilitated groups are growing, and we hope that those will continue to grow as more organizations partner with us and we work with them to roll out the curricula in groups that they may be reaching currently. So all of that you heard was about phase one of our project that started amid the pandemic, and we're now building phase two. So I just wanted to share a few learnings that we're using as we develop the next phase of content. We have decided that having general literacy content for end users in audio format works very well in these scripts. And we have supplemental content that is country specific and has examples of what to do for certain products as written materials for facilitators. The content that is based around the characters who you learned about learning from each other seems to be very well received. And some facilitators have even told us, yes, the women emulate those characters and are learning from each other the same way the characters in the story do. One thing that we're planning to change is that we attempted a chronological storyline between the episodes. So in addition to each episode having a topic, we were also starting with the beginning of introducing these women in a savings group. And you may remember from the slide about what percentage listened to completion, that one was actually at the bottom. And we believe that was because we spent a lot of time setting up a story where really with this, especially on IVR, people want to get the key messages quickly. So going forward, there'll be little stories in the episodes, but no attempt at something that goes across all of them. Things that we're adding are additional topics that we have been requested to add by either listeners or our partner organizations. We're developing a new character and a new archetype for an advanced entrepreneur in order to include some additional content for women entrepreneurs who may be at the next level of using digital financial services and other digital tools for growing their business. We're experimenting with providing more learning resources for facilitators beyond just the written guide for them, and trying to reach those facilitators in new ways, especially since many of them are not digital financial service experts themselves. And lastly, we're looking to add additional partners, additional countries, and as scale and funding allows, additional languages that we might translate that content to. So right now we've got 15 new episodes under development that we hope to launch next month. And like the episodes that are available on the website, these will be publicly available and we're eager for others to use them. So that is the end of our presentation here. Please feel free to reach out, if not in the conversations to come in the breakout rooms, then over email if you would like to learn more and talk about how we could potentially partner.